Theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Wrong reviews it all on Joy Drive with Em and Warren.
Good afternoon, Suzy Wrong.
Good afternoon. So lovely to be with you.
It's lovely to have you. Do you drink coffee, and what milk do you have?
I maybe have 4 coffees in a year, and it's a decaf.
Oh.
So very, very occasionally I have a coffee, and I would always have a cappuccino because I'm from Sydney.
You're from Sydney. Do you know that is the number one coffee in Sydney? Whereas
I heard you say yes.
Yeah, whereas in Melbourne we prefer
lattes.
Lattes.
And I'm full cream, full fat all the way.
Yeah.
I embrace the fat. I think it's healthy.
Both cities prefer full fat, but it's interesting. Why is it that you reckon it's the cappuccino in Sydney, the chocolate? I mean, are you sweeter?
I think I do like a little bit of the sweet there to start. And also the way it's served in sort of like a traditional looking cup. I think that appeals to me maybe.
Yeah.
I think there's something nostalgic about the cappuccino. It feels very like 80s or 90s to me.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about like suburbs and like locations like Leichhardt, Norton Street, that sort of thing. That's very like authentic old school Italian. So you probably can get your hands on cappuccinos.
A cup of chino.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Suzy, I, as much as I don't want to move on from this conversation, we are chatting to you about something we've watched. What are we talking about this afternoon?
A League of Their Own returns 30 years after its feature film release, this time as an 8-episode television series from Amazon Prime Video. Still wholesome, still full of heart, but only this time it's with queer women everywhere, finally allowed out of the closet. The story involves the Rockford Peaches in the 1940s participating in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, set up during the war when the men were too busy defending the world from fascism. There are 2 main characters this time round. We follow Carson's story as she joins the Peaches and promptly discovers that in addition to baseball, she really loves being a lesbian. Maxine does not make the team because black women were not permitted to join the league, but nevertheless, she persists, and we follow her amazing journey as she tries to prove herself a worthy professional sports person. Regular Joy Drive listeners will no doubt know that no one is less interested in sports than I am, but judging
Or me.
But judging from the incessant crying that I did for this new series, A League of Their Own is probably a lot less about sport than it is about identity, about authenticity, politics, and above all, it is about belonging. The characters are very thoroughly considered and the writing is just phenomenal. There are pearls of wisdom being dropped left, right, and center. Abby Jacobson, who plays Carson, is also a writer and producer. She made her name with Broad City, but it is now that she proves a real force to be reckoned with. A League of Their Own is probably not going to speak to everyone. It is very queer and it's very political, but for audiences who like their entertainment super woke, this is gold. Em and Warren, for once, I just couldn't pick if you're going to enjoy this one.
Em, what did you think?
I actually really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was slow to start. So initially I was kind of like, it's sporty. All 3 of us, what can we say? We're not that into sport. But once you realize, okay, it's going to have, a sort of not surface. You do kind of learn about baseball. I do feel like I've learned some things, but it's not totally about sport. And I do think that the story and the drama sort of gets better and bigger as the series goes on. I really loved the interpersonal relationships in both of the main stories, as you mentioned, Carson's and Max's. I think that really made the series. And I really enjoyed watching Carson and Greta sort of slowly get to know each other and then really quickly get to know each other and that sort of evolution of that relationship as well. And I thought that a really powerful sort of storyline as well was when they went to the cinema and there was the bar behind the cinema and this whole Dorothy, an introduction to that episode, the first episode that we went there. And of course then sort of how that progresses as well was really quite powerful.
Yeah, it's a very, very slow burn. I thought the first 2 episodes were a little bit tentative and I was a bit worried.
Yeah, me too.
But it just escalates when it happens. It really happens, and it really clicks for me at some stage. Especially when Maxine's trans uncle appeared, I was just like completely floored.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Birdie was amazing.
amazing.
Yes, truly.
I agree with you both. I found it really, really slow. And I kind of felt that this, like you've got, Max's story going as well as Carson's. And I found it was a little bit, I don't know, disjointed at first. And I was getting a little bit, I was flicking from one story to the other. And then I thought, well, where are they going to come together? But something that I did love is, from what I can remember of the original, it looks a lot deeper into, obviously the LGBTIQ plus issues and the race issues more so than the original one did. And I think, if we look at World War things that happened sort of in the 40s, World War II, around about there, we kind of always look at them, don't we, through a nostalgic lens for some reason. And I thought it was really good to watch something that didn't have that nostalgia on it and, brought up some of these issues that we were talking about.
Yeah, I loved this so much. I went back and saw the film right away. The old film, which I hadn't seen. The film from 1992. I hadn't seen it since, I don't know, I probably saw it again in 94 or something. So for a lot of years. And it is very like a Disney film, and there's like no sexuality in there. But it did have a lot of heart when it came to sort of representing women and, I guess our mothers and our grandmothers. I think that was very beautifully done. But because of sort of its refusal to deal with the sort of more serious things, it never dealt with the war really, and it obviously never dealt with the gay women in the team. Like, they were completely glossed over and disguised. And this time watching the film, there was a 5-second sequence that was really moving. They just had one sequence for about 5 seconds when a black woman was throwing the ball back at the player because it had come out of the court of the field or something. And it just was this indication that, actually we know that black women existed, but they weren't allowed to join. And it was just such a tiny little gesture. But in this new iteration of A League of Their Own, she has a full story. She takes up practically half the series, and it's so wonderfully done. I'm very moved by that.
Something else I thought about as well, like, the word "like," which I just said, was said quite a bit. I think there was a speech at one stage, and I think they used the term "super excited" as well. And I thought, I don't know if those terms would have necessarily been in the language back then. And for me, it's kind of took away a little bit of the authenticity of what it would have been like in the 1940s. And the only reason, it's only a minor thing, but the only thing I don't like about when that happens is it sort of doesn't timestamp it properly, and then we can't necessarily see how far we've come.
That's interesting. I didn't notice that. I was really taken by, we talk a lot about standing on the shoulders of those who have come before us. But we just never get examples of people like us from way back when. We get quite a lot from the 70s and 80s, with all the political activity that was happening. And we like telling those stories about Stonewall and after that. But obviously we know that we have always existed, but we don't know those people, and I think this time it's obviously heavily fabricated and, it's all made up. But just to see us, what we might have been like in the past and the difficulties we know that we had gone through, I found it so incredibly moving. And, as a trans person, I never get to see or imagine really what trans people must have been like. And just to see it portrayed in quite a rich way. And, Bertie was an amazing personality, and Bertie did amazing things, and I found it just so moving in a really, really deep way. I don't really understand why it affected me so much, but the second Bertie appeared, and it was sort of a surprise appearance, I just found myself just incredibly touched.
And just think of how many stories haven't been told that we've lost.
Yeah. M mentioned that sort of secret gay bar, that were for the friends of Dorothy. And those sequences of people in the bar were amazing. And there's a little bit about the owner of the bar. We will not spoil it by revealing who the owner of the bar is. It was a really beautiful surprise.
Yes.
But that sort of portrayal of what the owners of the bar had to do. And that performance is great. That performance of courage without putting it in the dialogue so much, but just seeing how they held their pride within that hidden space. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I kind of disagree because I connected with it more, I think, because it wasn't all like 1940s dialogue and because I feel like that gave us sort of like a hidden, behind the scenes look. Because if we were watching it as if it were like a 1940s portrayal, one, I would probably be bored. And two, we wouldn't see like the sauciness that we saw and the sassiness that we saw and like moments that really made the characters, in my opinion, like super likable and like accessible. So I thought that was really kind of well done because, yeah, it kind of like captured my attention. And I think, you mentioned Birdie and we've been talking about him quite a lot, Suzy, and I agree. I thought that his character was so special and so wonderful. And I thought that it was super interesting that Max's best friend, Clarence, is such a lovely character. Like, she's so gorgeous and she's such a good friend to Max and she's so wonderful in so many ways. But then she immediately calls Max's Uncle Bertie a freak. And that was, to me, like, so devastating. Because you think, for this whole series, you've been someone that I'm like, I love this person. They're great. They're fantastic. They've got their, they've got their stuff, but they're really wonderful. And then that happened and I was like, I hate you now. But that was the time. That was the time.
Yeah, back to the bit about, I guess, interpretation. Like, we are looking at these old stories through a modern lens, which is why I guess maybe some of the language doesn't feel authentic. Because I think we are even learning to see them in a way that they didn't know how to see themselves. Don't you think? Sometimes I feel like we are looking at them and understanding the legacy that they left behind, understanding that the work that they've done.
And it's not a documentary, I suppose, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But the legacy that they didn't know that they were leaving behind, I think that's really beautiful.
Definitely. Suzy, what is our homework for next week?
Okay, next week. The movie is not about Whitney Houston. It is called Beauty, and it's on your Netflix. It's arty and sensual, but it's not about Whitney Houston. Or maybe it is about Whitney Houston. We'll find out.
I like that sizzle. We'll have to find out. Fantastic.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you next Tuesday.
See you, Suzy.
Thanks, Suzy. That's Suzy Wrong, our theatre, TV and film reviewer. And Suzy is here every Tuesday on Joy Drive.
Joy Drive on Joy 94.9 FM in Melbourne, Joy on your digital radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn.com or the Joy app. No matter where you are, you can always take Em and Warren with you.